On air, online, on demand. Watch AFR when you want, where you want with CN8, the Comcast network.
Millions of women, especially African-American women, apparently speak of often the single life. You know, as the saying goes, love is hard to find. Well, for black women, they say it's harder than ever. Take a look at some numbers. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, if you go back to, say, 1950, 38% of African-American women were single in the United States. Well, amazingly, 50 years later, 64% of African-American women are single in the United States, a drastic increase. The question is, why? Is it harder for a black woman to find a man than anyone else? Well, let's talk about it. Joining me now to have the discussion are two single black women. The first is Summer Barlow. She's a radio announcer for Power 99 FM, a radio station in Philadelphia. And also joining me is Lindsay Morgan. Lindsay is a school teacher in Philadelphia and currently pursuing her doctorate of education at Temple University. Ladies, thanks for taking the time to be here to have this discussion. Let me start with a basic question. Okay, here you have a popular radio host and a soon-to-be doctor of education. You're two attractive ladies. Are you guys single by choice or because you just haven't found Mr. Right yet?
I definitely think that it's partly choice. I mean, finding Mr. Right means that you're making a choice or not. So I like to think of it as more of a choice. More of a choice.
And Summer, you say what?
For me, it's not a choice so much as it is when it's right. I don't know, I'll feel it, and I'll go with it then. It's not a choice either way. Right.
Now, Summer, right now, you are one of the many people who are in the sexiest singles edition, and it's actually a contest going on in Philadelphia. So was that a way for you to get out there, to be discovered, so to speak? And you happen to have the article right there in your hand.
I happen to have it. My mom brought it out to me.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. Well, so the question is, I mean, was that for you, the decision to get into that, was that part of a way to put yourself out there, or are you campaigning for looking for a guy?
Actually, a close friend of mine and someone in our industry nominated me. And when I found out, I was ecstatic, just because it's an honor to be honored in any way, let alone nominated as somebody sexy. Who knows what sexy is? And yeah. I was just really excited to be nominated by someone else. But honestly, I'm in the media, so I'm already out there. People know my status. They know everything that's going on with me. And it doesn't bother me. I've never had a problem with being single or in a relationship. It happens when it's right. Yeah. And I don't think there's any shame in being single.
Yeah, I hear you. Lindsay, is it harder for black women to find a man? Is it just tougher for this particular group than any other, in your opinion?
I do think that it gets tougher, certainly, as we get older. You know, being in education, I can say, you know, in the classes that I'm in, there are very few men at all, let alone black men. So in terms of men, single black men that are doing things that I'm doing, where the circles are getting smaller and smaller.
So you basically say that it's harder for a black woman to find a mate because the choices are limited for black women, more so than it's just anything else?
I don't believe that.
I'd say choices are out there, but, you know, as I said, in terms of people with common interests doing similar things, they're not necessarily around.
Well, and Summer, I saw you shaking your head, and I'm going to put something out there, and I want you guys to give me a candid answer to this. You know what the stereotype is. The stereotype is that, hey, my goodness, a black woman can be hard to get along with, they're difficult, they're very challenging, and men tend to shy away from that. You say what?
I say that if we were a society right now that was enforcing traditional familial values, that an African-American male and an African-American female would see the purpose in being in a family and not, theoretically speaking, out sowing oats and trying to find out if they're ready to settle down by seeing multitudes of people just because they can. I call it the cereal aisle incident, where you browse just for the sake of browsing because there are options, instead of being happy and allowing yourself to immerse yourself in a good relationship because you're afforded that opportunity. I don't think people see it as an opportunity anymore. They see it as an option. And because it's an option and the family is an option, then you start there. When we have less families, we have less.
And you mentioned
community.
you mentioned the family. There is a large amount of African American women who are single heads of families where there is not a man in the home, but there are children there. Does that make it more difficult, and does that skew the numbers that we talked about earlier in terms of why it may be harder for black women?
I'm not sure if it skews the numbers, but I will say that as a single parent, it definitely makes my kind a different kind of woman now, because we are women who are out working to pay the bills and at the same time being the nurturing homemaker. And if you're doing both at the same time, it creates a different character than the character of, say, my grandmother, whom, as much as she wanted to work, was basically told by my grandfather, your job is here. And it's an equal job. It's not unequal. It's just different from my job. I need for you to stay here and make sure that my family is educated and ready for the world. And in that way, it creates a different character, someone who is more acclimated to one specific job versus being at a multitude of places at any given time.
Sure.
And having to switch, having to be the tiger when you get to work and having to be the nurturer when you get home and having to play on both things when you're trying to date. It's a very different world now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, ladies, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on this topic of being black and single in America, and if it's harder for black women than anybody else. Summer in the City, as you're called on the radio on Power 99. And Lindsay, thank you too. Good luck with your doctorate degree, and good luck in the hunt for romance.
Thank you.
If you're actually looking.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Do you buy that? Do you believe that it's harder for black women to find a mate than anyone else? Email me. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll read your thoughts on the air if you've got an opinion on that.